Home and Away spoilers. Cash breaks up with Eden after Felicity's funeral. Next week on Home and Away in the UK, Cash and Eden leave town for Felicity's private funeral in the country, but the recent events prompt Cash to make a rash decision about his relationship. After the devastating events of the last week, the time has come to lay Felicity to rest. Flick collapsed in Salt after suffering a brain aneurysm, and although she was rushed to Northern District's hospital where she underwent surgery, a second bleed later left her brain dead. Big brother Cash initially couldn't accept Bree's diagnosis, and it was only after sitting in on the second neurological assessment, required by law to determine a lack of brain activity, that Cash realized his sister was gone. Not feeling ready to say goodbye, Cash refused permission to have Flick's life support switched off for a couple of days. Until Flick's ex-husband Tane convinced him that she wouldn't want to be kept hooked up to machines. After Cash agreed to donate Flick's organs, she was wheeled down to surgery with the hospital staff lining the corridor in a guard of honor. Next week, Cash still hasn't been able to tell foster father Gary about Flick's death. Despite Eden's gentle encouragement, he instead busies himself with packing up all of Flick's belongings, but is halted when he comes across her photo album, staring at a childhood photo of the two of them. When a delivery shows up, it's a selection of wedding dresses that Flick had arranged for Eden to try on. It hits Eden hard as she and Cash are united in their grief. Cash still cannot bring himself to tell Gary, feeling bad for not giving him the opportunity to come to the hospital and say his own goodbyes. But a few words from Tane ends up being the push that Cash needs to make the difficult phone call. Later in the week, Flick's friends are disappointed to learn that Cash has opted to have the funeral back in the country town where he and Flick grew up. With only Cash, Gary and Eden present, Leah and Justin agree that it doesn't feel right, Flick having a funeral of such a small size. Salt co-owner Mackenzie takes the news particularly hard, as she asks about all the others who lost Flick from their lives. Justin suggests that they hold their own memorial in Summer Bay, which everyone agrees is a great idea. Salt's chef will take care of catering with assistance from Leah and Marilyn, and Mac orders a load of champagne-free glasses for everyone is a must. Considering it's Flick, Alf warns Justin that they should really get Cash's blessing before they go ahead. And when Justin broaches the subject, Cash agrees that it's a good idea. Flick had always joked about having a festival of Felicity. As the final preparations are made at Salt, Cash and Eden drive up to Gary's farm. The three talk that evening, with Gary reminded of a young Flick portrayed in a flashback by Amali Jalisi dancing under a nearby tree in front of the Utes' headlights. The memory is too painful for Cash, who walks away to gather his thoughts, leaving Gary to remind Eden that for many years, it was Cash and Flick against the world. The next day, the three take Flick's coffin to the gravesite, where she will be buried alongside her beloved parents Anthony and Jennifer. Eden places flowers next to both of their headstones, with a final bouquet left for Flick. Gary says a few words, choosing not to focus on Flick's difficult childhood, where she struggled to accept him and wife Catherine as parental figures, but instead on the past few years where he felt privileged to be a part of her life once again. As Gary talks about the times Flick just called him up for advice or to share the latest gossip, both Cash and Eden are surprised to learn that she had been the one to break the news of their engagement to Gary. She had sworn Gary to secrecy ready for when Cash later told him, but was too excited for her brother and bestie to keep quiet. After Cash places the flowers on top of Flick's coffin, the three say their final farewells as she is lowered into the ground. Following the ceremony, Eden and Cash console each other, and Cash tells Eden the last thing that Flick said to him moments before her collapse, that they could both be happy. Cash now feels like a fool for believing her, after so much tragedy in their lives. Eden is then blindsided when Cash suddenly announces that their relationship is over. Eden looks at her fiancé in confusion as he explains that everyone he loves just ends up buried there. He doesn't want to have to bury her too. Eden begs Cash to see sense, but he tells her to go back to the house, take the keys to the car and leave. He doesn't want her in his life anymore. Will Gary be able to talk Cash out of his drastic decision?
Các bạn vừa theo dõi một sản phẩm của Home and Away Spoiler Today. Xin chào.